Hey, and welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR, and we got a lot to talk about in the Big Ten. We cover every single Big Ten team here at the Big Ten Huddle, but we're going to be giving you more of a national perspective tonight as Zach and I will be going over our top 25s the night before the first AP poll drops, or I guess the first in-season AP poll. We've had the preseason one, but the first in-season pre-AP poll drops, and we're having a good time with it. Also doing our college football playoff predictions at the end as well, so stick around for that. And now I'm going to bring on the guy who can sympathize with me for all the Cornhuskers who hate me right now, because he's gotten the hate as well. It's Zach Guggenheim.
To be fair, I got back in their good graces by putting Nebraska in the playoff in my preseason playoff rankings, but they may not like me after this round of playoff rankings.
That's what I was gonna say. Are they still in your playoff rankings?
No, they're not.
Ouch.
No, they're not.
Ouch.
But they're still in my top 25. Still in my top 25.
Okay.
So.
All right. We'll call it fair. So, got a good show for you tonight. We're just going to go ahead and get right into it because we don't have a chat or anything like that. This is recorded, not live. So, we'll go for it. Zach, do you want to go first in your top 25 or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first because I want to clarify my comments from yesterday, or I guess Sunday, or from Sunday if you're listening on podcast. I do have Ohio State 1 and LSU 2. And I want to explain something because I don't know. I forget how I said it, but I think I made it seem like that LSU was better than Ohio State after when we talked on Sunday. And what I was trying to talk about was that I think on the field currently, there is, I think, a matchup problem with LSU and Ohio State because Garrett Nussmeier is a senior. He's a multi-year starter. And so I don't love that matchup for Ohio State. That is a matchup thing. That is not a resume thing. Okay? So I just want to get that out there so that when people start saying, well, LSU deserves to be won because they beat, quite honestly, an overrated Clemson team on the road, great win. I don't want to denigrate the win because it was a really good win, but they beat a Clemson team with a quarterback who is, a starter, multi-year starter, who is like up and down in NFL draft analysts' opinions. A wide receiving core that lost their best receiver like a quarter in, and a team that couldn't run the ball. Okay, so like a flawed team. Josh Pate himself said that Clemson can't scale. And we've seen that against several teams last year and now this year. So Clemson's a good win. I'm not gonna sit here and knock that. But let's hold up when we start saying that LSU deserves to be number one because they beat that team by a touchdown on the road. And everybody can say, well, but LSU should have won by ... Well, you know what? If Ohio State ever felt threatened, except for 4 minutes left in the game, maybe they would have opened up the offense. Maybe. But they didn't have to. You want to know why? Because that defense freaking killed it. And they're just going to get better. That offense is just going to get better. So I don't care what anybody else has to say. You cannot put anyone but Ohio State number one. If you do, Heather Dinich, Paul Feinbaum, Ross Dellinger, Crane and Company, you're just wrong objectively, right? Every metric has Texas above LSU still. Okay? It's absurd. Ohio State has the best win right now. Full stop. So I've got Ohio State 1, LSU 2. I don't think you can do it any other way. I don't think you can put Ohio State below LSU or anybody else for that matter, including Texas FPI. Get out of here. Stupid.
Zach, coming in hot tonight.
I'm angry about this, man. So but I give a lot of respect to LSU. Like, I give a lot of respect. So that's why they're number 2 above Penn State. Penn State
Can I
beat.
just
No,
say one
yeah,
thing really
go
fast?
for it.
I don't want to interrupt your rant. I want to make sure the rant is over.
Yes, the
But
rant's over. The rant's over.
Nobody enjoys a good rant more than me, Zach. So you're gonna get no complaints here. I just find it hilarious that all the SEC talking heads. I haven't seen Ross Dellinger. I saw the Bear guy and Heather Dinich and ESPN FPI. I didn't even see Crane and Company. They ranked Steve Sarkisian as a better head coach than Ryan Day this offseason. I mean, they are totally irrelevant with their opinions. In my opinion, I guess if you listen to them, by all means, sure. But I don't think they think stuff through all the way. However, I would just say I find it very funny that all of these groups have basically gone from saying like, "What's the best teams? We got to talk about the best teams. Which ones are the best teams?" To now, it's like, well, who has the best win? Who's the most deserving? It's like you went from saying Texas is like the best team ever, all this returning stuff, Arch Manning is going to be amazing, and now it's like, wow, Texas wasn't all that good. They're not all that great. They don't want to talk about most deserving now. They just want to talk about who has the best wins and who doesn't, and yeah. So anyway, I find it comical, and I just wanted to add that on to your rant.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Because it's just dumb. It's nonsensical. And I don't like, everybody has a bias. We have a bias. Like we're very open about that. And we try not to be, but like it does seep in. And you'll see it in this top 25. But I will say this, that like the defense didn't change for Texas. And that was what everybody's talking about Arch, but the reason why they were ranked number 1 as well, I would say even more so than Arch, was the defense. That defense is still ridiculous. Ohio State beat them with a freshman quarterback. Like, put some respect on that. And like, put some respect on Matt Patricia. Put some respect on Arvell Reese. My gosh, I went back and watched that game, like rewatched it. Those linebackers are just. I did not see better linebacker play all weekend.
Yeah. I mean, Ohio State just has to get the offense up and running with it, and it's not that the offense wasn't, but I mean, I almost responded to somebody today who was saying LSU is the better team. I'm like, are you aware that Ohio State, with one of the most conservative offensive efforts I have ever seen under Ryan Day, with their best position group on the team playing like the worst position group on the team, I don't think that's crazy to say that the wide receivers were. I mean, they had some really good moments. Carnell Tate's touchdown catch, he had a couple that were really amazing, but I mean, for the most part, Max Clare, Jeremiah Smith dropping balls. Like, if you would have went into that game and said Ohio State scores 14 points and the wide receivers put together their worst game that you've seen under Brian Hartline, it's like, okay, yeah, I don't think Ohio State's winning.
Right.
But they did because of that defense and because of Matt Patricia and everything else. I mean, LSU, obviously, they had some deficiencies as well. I'm just saying, I don't think the wide receivers for Ohio State are going to be dropping 4 or 5 balls all season long. That doesn't sound like an Ohio State wide receiver and tight end core to me.
Nope. It will. I doubt it happens again. So I'll get off Ohio State, LSU. I do think those are the two most deserving teams to be up there based on who they played. I think Penn State, you can't have them outside of the top 3. They did nothing to show me that they weren't one of the top 3 teams this weekend. I have Texas 4 because I do think Arch, there are some issues with Arch, but I think that defense is going to win them a lot of games, including in the SEC. So I love Texas. I think they're going to be fine. Miami's freaking good, man. That defensive line overtook the Notre Dame game, like in those last minutes. I think Carson Beck looks like the Carson Beck that everybody thought we were going to get a year ago. I thought he looked really good, really poised. Receivers, was it Daniels who made that catch? Like, stud, just really, really good. Oregon at 6, Georgia 7, Notre Dame 8, Clemson at 9. But I think you can make an argument that they should be outside the top 10. I don't know how good they are, and I think we were sold a bit of a bill of goods with them, and I think they could contend for the ACC. But right now, I think they're the second best team in the ACC, and I'm not sure that they're going to be in the playoff mix. They're in my playoff predictions, but that's just because, like right now, I'm like, well, the ACC's bad, but that's just kind of where I have them right now. Utah at 10. I bumped them all really, really high up because I think the transfer quarterback, he's how, like, they have a really good quarterback. I think the health of their team is good. And I think they are the clear best team in the Big 12 right now. Illinois 11, Michigan 12, Florida State 13, South Carolina and Florida 14, 15, Iowa State, Arizona State, USC, Texas Tech, Ole Miss, Oklahoma. Those teams all feel like a mess to me. If you go from like 14 to 21, I'm like, spin a wheel, pick one and put them there. Minnesota at 22. I will say this again. People will look at the score and not understand how impressive I thought Minnesota was. I thought the receivers were better than I expected. I thought Drake Lindsay handled, some pretty good players for Buffalo, pass rush for Buffalo pretty well. Coy Parrish is a stud in that back end. He's, catching passes, special teams. So I've got them at 22, which I know is going to anger some other Big Ten fans. Tulane at 23. They're my group of 5 team that I think has the best shot to make the playoffs. And then Nebraska and Indiana rolling out or finishing out the top 25. No Bama, no Tennessee. I don't care that Tennessee beat Syracuse. I don't think Syracuse is good. And I think I do have concerns about Indiana after their performance against Old Dominion, but I see the potential with the roster. Like, I think that after that performance against Old Dominion, real concerns, like real yellow flags that I have there. But I do think, I think you also see the potential with the running backs, the offensive line. I think Mendoza's got to clean some things up. And I think they've got to figure out how to defend the zone read. But other than that, I do think you see an upgraded roster from them. So I've got them finishing out the top 25.
All right, I have comments, but we will get to my top 25 first, and then we can kind of go here, there, and around. Sorry if you hear my daughter in the background. I'm home alone right now.
She is very upset at my top 25. Yeah, that's what I think is happening.
That's what it is. Yeah, I was going to say, some people would probably think that we're recording this because Zach ranked Indiana 25th and we don't want the ire of Indiana fans. No, it's just because I'm home alone with my kids right now, and I may need to pause this at some point if my daughter starts yelling for something. So, but anyway, we're back. All right, so we'll go through mine. Not too much different from Zach's. Got a few different things, and I think we'll obviously touch on these. I have Ohio State number 1, if you couldn't tell from the conversation earlier. I have Texas at number 2. Look, I think going to Ohio State, you had no idea what the coordinators were going to throw out at you. You had a good idea what the offense was going to do, but even they were far more conservative than I think probably Texas was even predicting would happen. And then Matt Patricia goes out there and just starts running NFL-level stuff. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but number 1, I was incredibly impressed with Ohio State because of what Matt Patricia was doing. But number 2, I was incredibly impressed that Ohio State had, what was it, 8 brand new starters on defense, and they were literally running more complex stuff. Doesn't mean it's better, but just more complex stuff than they were running last season. I mean, now, that would make sense if you had 8 returning starters, but only 3 returning starters, 8 new guys. That's pretty doggone impressive, and so I'm not going to mark Texas as much as some other people. I've seen some people have them down at 10. I think they're absolutely insane. I think if you have Texas outside of the top 5, you are absolutely insane, and you should not make a top 25, in my opinion. Moving on. LSU, I have at number 3. Obviously, big win for them. We'll see. I mean, Clemson has also lost to a number of SEC teams lately. So, yes, good win. You know, if you want to call it the best win in the country, that's fine. But I just think the history of Clemson and everything else. Blake Baker fixed things on defense. That's a great win for them. But I don't think LSU is going to finish as the best team in the SEC this season. We'll see. We'll see. This isn't a prediction. This is top 25. So, not saying that. But Penn State, I have a number 4. They looked great to me as well, Zach. It was just not a good team. And I want to reward teams that play well and play big opponents. So that's what I did.
Agreed.
Miami, number 5, Carson Beck, and those guys look really, really good. Carson Beck looks like a whole new man. He was crying in the post-game interview, and I love my team so much. And I was like, man, I bet you do, because that offensive line and those wide receivers were playing better than I think what you were getting at Georgia last year. Maybe not the offensive line, but at least the receivers were. Oregon 6, throttled an FCS team. Congratulations. Georgia 7, throttled a Marshall team. Congratulations. That has like nobody returning. Notre Dame at 8, lost to Miami, but I don't want to hurt him too bad for that. I think CJ Carr's first game, he was good for his first game. Really put his body on the line. I like to see that. Clemson, number 9. That was the team that really had the biggest drop to me in the top. I think I had them at number 3 or 4 before number 4. So them dropping 5 spots, that is substantial. But I didn't love what I saw from Clemson. Illinois, keep them in the top 10 at number 10 because I refuse to put South Carolina above Illinois unless South Carolina just beats somebody amazing. Look, South Carolina played a very Big Ten game against Virginia Tech. I was proud of South Carolina, but if you're going to get into a Big Ten game with Brett Bielema, you know Burt is taking down Beamer every single time. Burt versus Beamer, Burt's coming, and Burt's taking him down. All right? Ain't no question about it.
Well, can I just interject too? I mean, this
Sure.
is the same Virginia Tech program that's lost to Rutgers the past 2 years. So, like, good job, South Carolina. You did what Rutgers did.
Yeah, and they did have a number of injuries last year, so I don't want to take last year into too much of consideration. But yeah, Virginia Tech looked good in ways, but they also kind of beat themselves in some ways. And Dylan Stewart, still really good. Lenora Sellers, still good. They got to get some pieces around him. Anyway, yeah. I'm not going to go too deep into South Carolina.
Just to be clear, that was not meant to be a dig at Rutgers. It's more just saying, like, South Carolina do something. Like, it's a Power 4 opponent.
Who are the teams that the SEC says every time? Well, you can have 9 conference games, but look who's on your conference schedule. It's like, okay, they also beat your teams. So.
Facts.
Yeah. Anyway, so power rankings, I had USC, Michigan, and Indiana right next to each other. And I said on the show, this is a tier that is very, very close. And I honestly could go either way with these 3. And I meant it. In the top 25, I have them right there in a row. USC, Michigan, Indiana. Felt like USC was the most impressive out of that one. They played an FBS team. I apologize. I said FCS. USC, to my knowledge, has never played an FCS team before. Give them their credit. They did a good job there. And they absolutely destroyed. Jada Mayava looked amazing. I am very, very impressed with Jada Mayava. Bryce Underwood and the Fighting Wolverines. Michigan Wolverines. I know they're not the Fighting Wolverines. At 13, Indiana. At 14, got some stuff to figure out, but they were also kind of slow against FIU to start last year as well. So I'm not going to ding them as bad as Zach, although I do understand the questions. Texas Tech. I actually think Texas Tech probably looked like the most complete team this weekend from what I saw from them. I did not watch the full game, but I caught enough to kind of get a glimpse of who they were. I feel like they looked like the most complete team. It's just they were playing a terrible FCS opponent, so I can't give them too much credit for that. Florida State at 16, big win over Alabama, and I was overall impressed with Florida State and how they played, how they ran the ball and everything. I do want to see them play a team that every player on the other team is trying and giving effort, but we'll see how that goes first. And then Auburn, Tennessee after them. I was impressed with Auburn's win, them going with Jackson Arnold so much, running the ball, doing anything they can to win. Tennessee, I was impressed with Joey Aguilar and his ability to throw the ball. Nebraska fans, I know you hate me right now, but it's okay. I still put your team number 19 because even though that defensive line, I still feel like has some room to improve. Secondary was good. Cincinnati did not have very good receivers, but secondary did a good job. Got the pick in the game. Dylan Raiola, very nickel and diamond it down the field. However, that's what Cincinnati gave him, so I'm not going to ding the offense and say it's not explosive like some people. Offense, good. Did what they had to do. Got out of there with the win. Iowa State win over Kansas State a couple of weeks ago. Throttled the FCS. I think it was an FCS team they played. Georgia Tech win over Colorado. Put them there in the top 25. Utah, big win over UCLA. I'm not as high on Utah as you are, Zach. I still think they win the Big 12, but I'm trying not to put my prediction in the top 25 here. So Texas A&M struggled with UTSA, but they eventually throttled them. So going to give them credit. Minnesota at 24, getting the win over Buffalo. Really spectacular defense by Minnesota. Kerry Brown slips on one play, and they get the touchdown, and Buffalo does. But overall, incredible defense. And then I do have Washington in there, right on the fringe, at number 25, Zach. So I know I know you say they're not a top 25 team. It's okay. It's okay. I get it.
Yet. I think they can't. They are for you. I'm waiting. I'm waiting.
All right, very good, very good. So, all right, Zach, key differences here. I think you still have Florida there in the top 25. I did not give them credit for beating Long Island University. You still have Arizona State in the top 25 there. I did not think they looked good against their FCS opponent. And then you have Oklahoma in over who I had in Tennessee and Auburn. Oh, and Ole Miss as well. So I think Tennessee and Auburn deserve to be in more than Ole Miss and Oklahoma. I didn't want to just keep them in for keeping in stakes. However, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about Ole Miss and Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think it's probably more of a sense of where I'm projecting them to be. And I think those teams are going to end up being better. But I think looking back, I probably should have given more credit to what Auburn and Tennessee accomplished. And they beat Power 4 teams. Ole Miss and Oklahoma did not. And so I feel like that was poor form on my part, if I'm being completely honest. I concede that
you were wrong. I was just
no,
your thought process. It's super subjective. Nobody's wrong here.
Well, no, but as I'm thinking about it, because I think and this is, I think, part of the problem with this poll is that I think as I look at last week, it's easy to be like, all right, who did I have last week? Well, did they win? Or who did I have preseason? Did they win? And unless if there's a win that pops, you're like, all right, whatever. And I'll be honest, I don't buy Tennessee and I don't buy Auburn. But I think if I'm really reflecting on it more, I think you do have to recognize that they did beat Power 4 teams, whereas Oklahoma and Ole Miss did not. And so I disagree with myself a little bit, but I wouldn't say I think it's negligible, but I think if we're going by what's been proven on the field, like I said before, then I think people have a right to be like, why didn't you do that? So.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a fair question.
Okay. Other game I want to play. I want to name you a Big Ten team, and you tell me how far off they are from being considered a top 25 team. A team that I felt like played well. Maybe it wasn't the biggest scoreboard differential, but how far off are they from being in the top 25 to you? I didn't tell you about this game. I just thought of it. Is that okay?
Go for it.
All right. Iowa.
Not yet. Okay. Not close. Do something against Iowa State.
If they beat Iowa State, they're in the top 25.
Yes.
That could be for everybody.
Yeah, but I'll just say this again. You're not impressing me with a quarterback who throws for 44 yards on 2.9 yards per attempt against Albany. Get out of here with that.
Zach is spicy tonight. I like it.
I am. we've seen real ball.
Tennessee, you just hate yellow and orange. You're just not a yellow and orange fan tonight.
That's fair.
Yeah. Auburn. Get out of here. Okay. Washington.
They're on the cusp for me.
Okay. All right. Get a good win and they're in there. If they beat Washington State, are they in?
Yeah. Well, and I think what's important to me is, do they clean up some of their discipline stuff, the turnover. Do they look more complete? I think because
they need to fix their run defense. That's for sure.
Yeah, because you made a really good point when we were on before. They have the star power, but it's they had the star power last year too, and so there's a little bit of PTSD where it's like, all right, I know that you have maybe the best running back in the conference, maybe outside of Nicholas Singleton. You have a top 3 or 5 receiver in Denzel Boston in the conference, and you have probably a top 5 quarterback in the conference. I want to see it everywhere else. Like I want to see you play complementary football. That's my biggest. And if they beat Washington State, they'll have to have done that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, Washington State, they play on the 20th of September, so that's still 3 weeks away because they have a bye. So they have UC Davis, bye, and then Washington State. So Washington, you probably won't be in Zach's top 25 for a number of weeks, if that's the case. Okay.
Well, if a bunch of teams lose,
who knows? That could happen.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see another one. Michigan State.
Oh no.
23-6.
It's Western Michigan. Like,
I mean, yeah, but Minnesota beat Buffalo 23-10, and you're putting Minnesota in.
Yes, but I do think Buffalo is a much better MAC team than Western Michigan. I think
what happens when Michigan State beats Boston College this weekend?
Then we can have a conversation. I still don't think it's they're in if they beat Boston College, because I think Boston College is a mid ACC team, if that. I think I think you and I both have questions still about that defense, about Aiden Childs. Like, I think Aiden Childs played well, but I do think there's still some questions with that roster.
I think their defense was one of the best parts of their team. Personally, I think the pass blocking was one of the biggest issues, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, yeah. But again, that Western Michigan, I think Western Michigan was picked to finish ninth in the MAC.
I see what you're saying. Shutting down Western Michigan's offense doesn't prove you have a good defense. I hear what you're saying.
Like there's legitimate, like you can make a case that Buffalo has a power 4 back and receiver on their team, like a P4 level pass rusher, going against new tackles. Like, Western Michigan did not have that. They did not have specimens, as we like to say.
Specimens. All right. Last team, and then we'll move on because we don't want to spend too much time on this. We do have our college football playoff prediction to get to after this. Actually, 2 more teams, just because I want to see you squirm with the last one.
Oh, boy.
Maryland. 39, or 39, yeah. 39-7 over Florida Atlantic.
We got to see more. Because Florida Atlantic, not a great group of 5 team. But you got to love what Malik Washington did, particularly after the first quarter. And so, but there's the question of, this is kind of what Mike Locksley does, where it's September. Well, it was August, but it's September, baby. Wins in September. Everything looks good. And then you get to Big Ten play and it just kind of collapses. So I think they're in a similar position as Michigan State, where you kind of have to prove it.
How many wins in a row does Maryland need to get to be ranked? They play Florida Atlantic, Northern Illinois, Towson, at Wisconsin, Washington, Nebraska. How many wins in a row do they need in order to be ranked?
Well, I think they've got to beat Wisconsin at Wisconsin.
Okay. At Wisconsin.
And even then it's going to be tough, because you're talking about wins against Northern Illinois, Towson, Florida Atlantic, and then potentially like a 4-win Wisconsin team. So like,
my next question, this Wisconsin team. So sorry, go ahead. If you finish your thought now.
Well, no. So Wisconsin's interesting, and Maryland's tied to it, because if Wisconsin can beat Bama, which is, listen, that Bama team's not good. They're a shell of who they were. That game is so much more up in the air now than it ever was preseason. If Wisconsin beats Alabama, because they're still going to get the reputation bump from it. Like, that would really help both Wisconsin and Maryland. And it's possible, but I think Wisconsin's got to beat Alabama on the road, and I think Maryland would have to beat a Wisconsin that has beaten Alabama. I think that's kind of the route I would take.
All right, last one. They shut a team out, Zach.
Oh dear! Don't do this.
Points.
Don't get DK's hopes up. Don't get DK's hopes up.
All I gotta say is boiler up, Zach.
Okay.
About the Boilermakers, the Purdue Boilermakers. How close are they? This is really gonna show if you have Big Ten bias or not.
I think that the percentage chance of top 25 this year is 0.
Oh.
To be fair, if they beat USC week 3, say like it's they get them at night in Ross-Ade and they pull off a shocker, they'd be ranked in the top 25, I think.
If Purdue wins at Notre Dame, are they in the top 15? If they beat USC,
if they beat USC and then go on the road and beat Notre Dame in consecutive weeks, they're absolutely going to be ranked. Here's my question: how much are they going to lose by combined?
Ouch, Zach. Ouch. Really hurt my feelings here. All right,
listen,
we don't need to spend too much time on Purdue.
If Purdue beats USC or Notre Dame, I will buy like a Purdue hard hat.
And you have to wear it for the rest of the season on the show.
No, not the rest of the next week. I'll wear it for a week on the show.
But whenever I say you have to keep it by your desk, and whenever I say boiler up, you have to put it on.
Okay.
For 1 minute.
That's okay. I can agree to this. Agree to this.
All right. We'll have Dylan hook you up with a Purdue Boilermaker helmet, and you have to put it on anytime I say boiler up. Okay.
I swear, if Purdue actually does the unthinkable, what have I done?
So hard for Purdue.
What have I done? What have I done? Oh no!
Let's talk college football playoff predictions. Zach, you want to go first? You want me to go first since you went first last time?
We can keep the trend going. I can go first.
All right, here you go. This is Zach's college football playoff predictions. Zach, go ahead and list them for the podcast listeners, and then you can get into your thought process.
Yeah, a lot of it is just it's my poll, but with Tulane at 12. And so number 1, Ohio State, number 2, LSU, number 3, Penn State, number 4, Texas, 5, I have Miami, 6, Oregon, 7, Georgia, 8, Notre Dame, 9, Clemson, Utah, 10, Illinois, 11, and then Tulane with the 12 spot. I know people will look at Oregon, Illinois as the 6-11 game and be like, they're not going to put Big Ten teams together. I'm not thinking about that. I'm just going straight like, where do I think they're ranked right now? And like, I think if you look at the schedules, I think this could be the result. Probably my biggest question mark is Clemson, because I'm not sure, and I don't have Clemson's schedule in front of me, but I'm not super convinced that they're as good as maybe we thought they were preseason after what we saw. But I think everything else will track. I do still have questions about Georgia. Like, Georgia beat just an incredibly undermanned team. And there is something to be said. Like, Carson Beck looked so much better in a Miami offense than he ever did at Georgia. And Notre Dame is a good football team. Like, they have good personnel. They're strong on the lines. And I thought Miami, their athleticism at receiver, their offensive line, they looked like they protected well, gave Beck really good options. So there's some skepticism that I have with Georgia right now, which I know people, that's like anyone at ESPN would say, of course, Georgia's like the number 1 team. We're going to vault them up above Ohio State because Marshall's a really good team. Propaganda. But I don't necessarily love Georgia. I don't love I propped up Utah, but there's a really good chance that that's more of Utah looks good because UCLA is just that bad. And I think that that's really out there. So Clemson, Utah, Georgia, and then I'll humor Illinois fans. I still think we need to see Illinois play a real team. So those are the four that I have question marks. I think Tulane right now is sitting pretty as the top group of 5 team.
All right. Yeah, you took a little bit of a different approach. I didn't have prediction baked into my top 25 as much as you did, so I did not just kind of do the same top 12 or whatever. This is where I am predicting. So I have Ohio State number 1, then followed by Georgia at number 2. I have Georgia winning the SEC. Number 3, Texas. Number 4, Penn State. I have Penn State being in the Big Ten championship game with Ohio State and losing. I think both Texas and Penn State both go to the Big Ten championship game, but I don't think they get punished for it similar to last year, so they stay in the top 4. I have Miami winning the ACC. Well, if they won the SEC, that'd be crazy. And then I have Oregon right there on the outside. I think they lose to Penn State this year and they get knocked down a little bit. And then, some teams kind of pass them just because they don't have as many of those huge games at the end of the season. So they kind of get passed up. It's not that I have them losing 2 games. I just have them losing the Penn State game and then possibly getting passed up, like I said, by a Miami, by a Texas, stuff like that. I have Notre Dame number 7. I think Notre Dame wins against Texas A&M. I think they went out the rest of the year, but similar situation with Oregon, just not a whole lot of great teams on that schedule. If USC is very good, that could really help them and vault them up a little bit higher, but no championship game or anything, so I have them there at 7. My 8-9 matchup is LSU and Utah. I think Utah gets themselves, a bid. I think they probably lose a game this season, but them winning the Big 12, they'll still be ahead of Clemson, who I have Clemson actually probably losing. So they have Troy, Georgia Tech, Syracuse, North Carolina, Boston College, SMU, Duke, Florida State, Louisville, Furman, and South Carolina. I have them losing at least one more game, possibly 2. I think they could survive losing 2, especially if LSU is good this season. And then I think the nature of how close that game is probably keeps them closely ranked to LSU. I have Illinois at number 11. If Illinois is going to go 10-2, like I predicted they would, they're going to be there right at the end. And I think a team like South Carolina or somebody like that in the SEC just barely misses, and Illinois gets in over them, similar to how Indiana did last year. And then finally, Tulane looks like the best G5 team in the nation right now, the one I'm most confident in, so I have them there at number 12. All right, I do want to go over some odds on FanDuel. Alabama, Zach, can you guess Alabama's odds to make the college football playoffs?
I'm going to say 10-1.
Plus 180. Yeah. Still pretty high. Not a favorite to get into the college football playoffs, but Alabama's still up there.
Can you put that into terms like how would you define that ratio?
I do not know. I'm not that good at betting. I would just be
Hold on. What are it's plus 180
While you do
odds.
that, I will update some more teams. Georgia has a minus 250 odds to make it into the playoffs. Ohio State, I believe, has the highest from everything I've seen at minus 650. Penn State is minus 430. Texas, updated, they are minus 180, so don't have as good of odds as some other teams. And then LSU, they are minus 194. Oregon, let me update you with Oregon. They are minus 192, and I think if I am correct, those are the only 6 teams that are currently favored to make the college football playoffs. Notre Dame might be. Notre Dame is, so they are minus 128. So Notre Dame, There are 7 teams right now that are favored to make it into the playoffs. Clemson is also, okay, so 8. Clemson is minus 118, and then Miami, I bet, is as well. So it's probably 9.
Can we have a conversation about Can we have a conversation about Alabama? Because so you just said plus 180. That's 35.7%. So that's more than a third chance that the betting odds are saying. This is their schedule: Louisiana Monroe, Wisconsin, at Georgia, Vanderbilt, the future national champions.
Natty champs. Whoop.
Yeah. At Missouri, Tennessee, at South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma, Eastern Illinois, and at Auburn. Do people really think they escape with less than 5 losses after the performance they just put up against Florida State?
I think you have a guaranteed loss to Georgia there, a likely loss to LSU, but I would say every other game is either a guaranteed win or a toss-up.
Even with what they just put on the field?
Yeah, I mean, you think South Carolina, Tennessee, or Oklahoma are a guaranteed loss?
I think their talent level is better than Florida State.
I think they have the best talent in the country. They have the number 1 talent composite.
Well, I know, but
But if your talent is only jogging,
right. Well, that's my point.
That's the issue.
That's my point. If they're not trying, not generally, I would agree with you, right? If you just look at Alabama's talent, I think Georgia is most likely a loss, and I think LSU is most likely a loss. But if you're talking about effort, that effort or lack thereof, is this an 8-4, 7-5, or 6-6 team?
All right, I apologize. I had to pause there for a minute. My daughter was going insane. But Zach, you didn't remember exactly where you were, but just give us your overall point on Alabama.
Yeah, very quick. I don't understand, after seeing what we saw against Florida State, how you can have them at even 35% odds to make the CFP. If they give that effort with the rest of their schedule, you're talking about maybe a 7-5 or 6-6 ball club. There's them and playoffs should not be in the same sentence right now.
Yeah, I mean, they shouldn't be, but they're in the SEC, so That's how it works, right?
So we'll play the same game. How many losses will it take for them to realize, and maybe they bounce back? I still have a lot of respect for Kalen DeBoer for what he did at Washington. Mm-hmm. But let's play the same game. How many losses until they're removed from the CFP board?
Well, we have to see what the committee does this year, right? Because the committee is valuing better losses. So one of the things that impacts it is Florida State and how they do this year. Florida State wins the ACC. Alabama is probably still sitting pretty and probably can still get in if they lose 2 more games, right? Mm-hmm. Because they have enough ranked teams on the schedule to say, look at these wins. Look at these wins. If they also lose to, if they lose to Georgia, at Georgia, and home against LSU, if they beat everybody else in the schedule, and Florida State is not 2-10, if Florida State is, let's say, 8-4, and they lose at Georgia and LSU, Alabama still makes it in.
So really, we're talking about they need to lose to Wisconsin or Vanderbilt or at Missouri to really get people to think, okay, this dynasty is over.
If Florida State is good, yes.
Yeah. So what if Florida State's actually just a mid program?
If Florida State is 6-6, 7-5, I think a loss to Georgia and LSU puts you out. Okay. Because you have that 6-6, 7-5 team hanging over you.
Yeah. That's fair. So Louisiana Monroe they get Louisiana Monroe next week. They beat St. Francis 29-0. That Alabama's probably going to name the score in that, but it would be, for the sake of my aunt, I really don't want them to lose to a group of 5 team, but
no, they won't lose. They won't lose to a group of 5 team, but But they will get. I mean, they will get credit for having a number of Power 5 teams on the schedule. They have 10 Power 4. Sorry, they have 10 Power 4 teams on the schedule here. Right now, currently in the AP poll, 5 of them are ranked. Yeah, I mean, Auburn's probably going to be ranked after this week. If Missouri wins enough or Vanderbilt wins enough, they could possibly be ranked when they play them. I don't see Tennessee or South Carolina or. I mean, I could see Oklahoma falling out of the top 25, but yeah, I mean, there's enough ranked teams on the schedule that, yeah, if they lose 3 games this season, they'll probably still make it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think to be fair to them, credit to them for playing 2 P4 teams out of conference. Right, like they played Florida State and Wisconsin. Like,
yeah, but that just makes them equal to like Ohio State.
Well, but they chose to schedule them, and I'll give credit there. Like, they could have made a choice, to do what some other SEC teams do. They could have made a choice to do what Indiana did, which we have no problem with. Like, I'm not trying to throw Cursignetti under the bus, but like, they could have went that route and they didn't. So.
Makes sense. All right. Anybody else on here that we need to talk about? We both had Utah in there. We both had LSU in there.
We had the same teams.
I mean, yeah,
just different order.
Very similar to the teams we have in there. Who are some teams that to you could make it in that are not on there right now? I mean, obviously USC is one, Illinois is one, Indiana, Michigan are a couple more from the Big Ten. That we can think about. If you're looking for another Big 12 team, I'm sure, who's the one I was thinking about? Arizona State is going to be in the conversation. Texas Tech is going to be in there. I don't think the Big 12 gets more than one bid, personally, but you're on the same page with that, Zach?
Yeah. Interestingly enough, at least last time I checked, I think TCU was up sizably.
20-7. Yeah,
20-7 on UNC. Yeah. Sorry, Bill.
It's okay, Bill. You got some Super Bowl rings. Leave some rings for everybody else. Louisville from the ACC could be another team. Obviously, Clemson. Obviously, Florida State, Miami. I say Miami. We both have Miami in.
I think
I had to say a dark horse type of team that could make it in there, not from the Big Ten. Look out for Kansas. Kansas beat the teams that they've played so far pretty handily. So let me double check their schedule really fast. But the Kansas Jayhawks, they beat Fresno State 31-7, and then Wagner. I mean, it's Wagner. They beat them 46-7, but they go to Missouri. In this one, do not be surprised if Kansas has a good enough season this year. I mean, Jalen Daniels, he's been around forever. If he can stay healthy all season, 4 touchdown passes last game, or 4 touchdowns. I don't know if they're all touchdown passes, but watch out for the Kansas Jayhawks. They could be a sleeper team. Plus 3,500 odds right now, or plus 30,000 odds right now to win the national championship. I don't think they'll do that, but odds to make the college football playoffs on FanDuel, plus 880. So.
Interesting.
So, like I said, I don't think they'll make it, but could be one. We'll see.
Interesting. I do think, I think USC, someone was joking on X about, like, I made a $100 bet that USC would not make the playoffs. That's a good bet, right? I'm not sure it is a good bet because, again, like
I don't like that bet at all.
Yeah. Like, again, it's Missouri State, but if you look at USC's schedule, like, I think the only sure loss, and I'm not even sure it's a sure loss, is Oregon. Like, I still don't.
I don't think that's a for sure loss.
Yeah, no.
The talent USC has. And this is not disparaging Oregon. This is more about believing in the talent that USC has.
Yeah, and like if they beat Illinois, like, I think they can beat Illinois, they can beat Notre Dame. I think Oregon is the one where I'm most skeptical, but Listen, if they go 10-2 and they win one of those road games, I mean those are three crazy road games. Illinois, Notre Dame, Oregon.
Well,
And by the way, at Nebraska too. That's another road game.
even if USC, say USC loses 3 games this season, they're in a similar boat to Alabama. I mean, right now they have 4 ranked teams on their schedule. Could be 5 by the time they play Nebraska. Could be 6 by the time they play Iowa. So, there are teams on this schedule that provide them the opportunity. I shouldn't say the opportunity. Provide them, if they lose to that team, it doesn't hinder them that much. But if they win, it could boost them up and really put them up there in more contention. Now, I don't think the Big Ten gets any more than 4 bids this season. That's not me saying they don't deserve more than 4 bids. That's me saying I don't think the committee will put more than 4 teams in there. I think you're probably going to see, Notre Dame get in, ACC probably get 2 teams in there like I have here, and then the SEC probably get 3 or 4 teams in there as well. Yeah. So I think that's just the way the playoffs are working out right now, but we'll see.
It'll be interesting for sure.
All right, Zach, any final thoughts or anything? This is a good episode.
Yes, it's very good. Right. By the way, to all you who liked, subscribed, man, you guys are killing it. Like, I think we've gained like over 120 subscribers in the past week, something like that. It's
football season is here, and the people are subscribing, and we appreciate it. So, we have more good content for you this week. So Zach and I will be back on Tuesday night. We will have another one of our extended shows, kind of going through 2 episodes on YouTube Live, and those 2 will be posted on podcasts. Jeff will be with me on Thursday. I believe he is traveling to the Kennesaw State game at Indiana this week, so I got to make sure he can go live with me Thursday night. I believe he can, but I got to double check with him because I had some stuff mixed up on our schedule last week, and I got to make sure I do that better. So you catch Jeff on Thursday night, or at least sometime on Thursday, Friday morning podcast, and then you can catch us, me and Zach, for Power Rankings on Saturday night. So the only night game, like 11 o'clock game, is, if I am looking at everything correctly, is Washington and UC Davis. I think we're okay to go live during that one. So, because UCLA and UNLV start at 8 o'clock Eastern time, so we'll just come on after that one. Probably will be somewhere around 11:30, and then we'll only go for about a half hour, 45 minutes. Do a power rankings, talking about the day, and then, we'll have some Washington, UC Davis going on in the background, and that'll be fun. And then Friday night, I'm going to try to come on and do like I did Thursday night. We have Western Illinois against Northwestern and Northern Illinois against Maryland. Those are obviously games that the Big Ten should win, but be fun to at least come on here, talk about them, and, see what you guys think. Zach, anything I missed on the scheduling front?
Nope. Right. But we will pick another potential SEC upset tomorrow, right?
Yes. So we'll pick all the Big Ten games. We'll do another SEC upset. I might do which Big Ten teams need a win the most or something like that. Like relative, obviously.
UCLA.
Obviously, Indiana needs to beat Kennesaw State. But I'm talking about, some of the bigger games against actual opponents.
UCLA.
Yes.
Michigan is probably the actual answer. Or Iowa. We'll figure it out tomorrow.
Well, I'm saying wins for them, not wins for the conference. If it was wins for the conference, it would be Michigan and Illinois would be the 2 biggest ones.
Yeah.
They're the teams that need to make the playoffs. But if it's wins for that individual team. So we'll probably do something like that. Iowa as well. I should throw them in there too. So. All right, so check us out Tuesday night, tomorrow night, or if you're listening to this Tuesday morning, tonight, live at 9 o'clock Eastern time. And then you can catch me and Jeff either live Thursday night or podcast Friday morning, one of the 2. And then you can catch me live Friday night, and then Zach and I live Saturday night as well. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. We appreciate you. Have a good one.